and we'll kind of jump in here. These slides I'm going to be able to share, or Amy will be able to share those with everyone as well. So there's a bunch of links that I'm going to click on, but you can definitely try those again later when you get a chance. Okay, so this is one resource I wanted to point folks to. This gentleman, Tony Bella, makes incredible what are called infographics, and he does them for all kinds of space missions and even some news items as well. But he goes into such immense detail, and I obviously you can't probably read any of this text, but I just want to give you some notes or some links here to for any missions you hear about, some of the SpaceX stuff going on or future things at the space station. There's just usually he does an infographic for lots of different missions. So descriptions are great. The pictures are just amazing. He actually updates them as if information changes or as he gets updates. He actually will go back and update them. So it's just a great resource. So again, these links, he posts stuff out to Twitter, and then he has this website as well. And there's free versions of everything. Higher resolution, I guess, maybe costs something, but there's always a free version to look at. So anyways, encourage you to check out this resource. Okay, so we're going to do what's called a digital flip book here. And I did not make this, but one of my fellow Solar System ambassadors did. And there's some videos inside here and some questions too. So we're going to work through these. And when we answer the questions, I'd like you to put just the letter like A, B, C, or D in the chat window. So here we go. The first one's going to talk about how they named the rover.
Curiosity, insight, spirit, opportunity. If you think about it, all of these names of past Mars rovers are qualities we possess as humans. We're always curious and seek opportunity. We have the spirit and insight to explore the moon, Mars, and beyond. But if rovers are to be the qualities of us as a race, we miss the most important thing: perseverance. We as humans evolved as creatures who could learn to adapt to any situation, no matter how harsh. We are a species of explorers, and we will meet many setbacks on the way to Mars. However, we can persevere. We, not as a nation, but as humans, will not give up. The human race will always persevere into the future.
So that was how they actually named the Perseverance rover. They had a contest. This was a 7th grade student that came up with that name and gave that essay to describe it. And so a lot of the words in that essay were also other Mars mission names: Spirit, Opportunity, Insight. Maybe you heard some of those, but so that was kind of cool to just kick things off there. So that's the first thing. Next one, this is a short little 60 minutes video, and then we'll have some questions after this one. So listen up.
60 minutes overtime.
Do you ever have the urge to just like go up and touch it? I don't know why I have that urge, but
it's kind of historic. It makes you feel like you're part of something that's, you know, a little more long-term, a little more historic.
This week on 60 Minutes, our story is about NASA's next mission to Mars, the rover Perseverance. It's scheduled to launch this summer and land 7 months later in an area called the Jezero Crater that's never been explored before.
I've worked on all the Mars rover missions.
Every single one.
Every single one.
We met Deputy Project Manager Matt Wallace in early January at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory in California. He took us into the clean room where Perseverance and the vehicles that will bring it to Mars were built. The actual landing on Mars has got to be a nerve-wracking moment.
It really is. It's nerve-wracking. It's certainly the most complex portion of the mission. That entry capsule is entering the outer atmosphere at 12,000 miles an hour, and in 7 minutes we have
12,000 miles an hour.
Yeah, it's moving fast.
How do you slow it down?
Well, the first thing that happens is the capsule itself interacts with the atmosphere, and that slows us down to maybe 1,000 miles an hour or so. And once we get to that point, we deploy an enormous supersonic parachute, big 70-foot parachute, and that'll slow us down to about 150 to 200 miles an hour. And then the rest of the way, we have to use propulsion to take us down to the ground.
Well, we call it the 7 minutes of terror.
Katie Stack Morgan is a deputy project scientist for Perseverance. The landing takes about 7 minutes.
Yeah.
From what, entering to the atmosphere?
Yes.
To actually setting
touching down on the surface.
And during those 7 minutes, controls it.
It's largely on its own. I mean, we've programmed it to do what it needs to do.
There's not somebody with a joystick watching Mars approaching and moving rover.
No, definitely not. No joystick. I mean, we can send commands to it, but we've program the sequence for how it lands, and it does that on its own.
The landing for any spacecraft is, one of the key moments. With Apollo 11, the astronauts had to manually alter the spot where they landed. Is that right?
That's right, yeah.
Eagle Houston, you're go for landing, over.
So essentially, the rover is now doing what astronauts did on the moon.
One small step for man. One giant leap for mankind.
Yes, the rover has the autonomy to make some of those decisions, not all of them, but some of them. Mars 2020 actually has a brand new technology to help its landing that no other missions have had before, and it's called terrain relative navigation. And we've already mapped the hazards as best we could tell from orbiter images. As the rover is getting close to landing, it takes a picture, and it compares the picture of the scene that it sees as it's descending to that map of hazards that it has in its brain. And it can actually divert away from the hazards that we've already identified on the surface.
Wait a minute, that's incredible. It can do that on its own without being
That's right.
directed.
Yep. And we wanted that capability because sites like this were off limits for previous missions. And yet these are some of the sites that we're most excited about going to.
Let's watch. Well, we'll watch it just once there. Okay. All right. Next. So here's the question. So how will the capsule help the Perseverance rover land on Mars? So the capsule is the part that encases the rover as it's coming in. So it will help speed up. It will slow it down. It will cause the capsule will cause the capsule to stabilize, or it has no effect. So if you want to, type your answer real quick. Do you think it's A, B, C, or D? Is it going to speed it up? Is it going to slow it down? Is it going to stabilize? Or will it have no effect? So I'll give you a couple seconds if you want to type an answer in. Dun, 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 dun. I see a C. I see a B. We're going to go with B. It will cause it to slow down. Remember, they said it's coming in at 12,000 miles an hour. It's got to slow it down. So this is just the start of that. So it hits, and there's just a little bit of atmosphere up there around Mars. Not much, but it does that. So that's that one. Okay, on to the next one. So this is another question they talked about. As the capsule is descending into the Mars atmosphere, it is called the nominal descent, 7 minutes of terror, the descendant process, or the diversion plan. Any quick A, B, C's, or D's on that one? You can see some B's. I think we got consensus there. It's the 7 minutes of terror, right? So terror kind of is a loaded word. Sometimes that means usually bad things, but we're hoping for all success today. But it does have to do a lot of things really fast. And as they said, this rover is on its own. We cannot interact with it in real time. It has to kind of be robotic, has to make decisions on its own. So 7 minutes of terror. We're getting close to those. That thing lands at 3:55 today, so that starts at just a little bit before that. Okay. And now one more quick video here.
NASA's next Mars rover is in development and has an ambitious mission. Decades of Mars research from previous spacecraft have shown the planet not only had water in the ancient past, but had environments that could have supported life.
Mars is our neighboring planet, in many ways the most similar to us, and certainly in its history. And the question whether ancient life was there is still the question that keeps us up at night.
Mars 2020 has 2 new objectives: to specifically seek the signs of life, and then sample materials and prepare a cache that could be returned to Earth by a future mission.
Mars 2020 is really the essential first part of a sample return mission. So it actually looks at the environment of these samples and then collects them and stores them. Afterwards, we will of course go and bring these samples back. So Mars 2020 is the first act of a return trip.
The Mars 2020 mission, to the maximum extent possible, follows the Mars Science Laboratory Curiosity mission. We're going to use very similar rocket, very similar cruise stage, very similar entry, descent, and landing. And the rover, when you step back, will look almost identical.
Not only were a lot of designs already developed for the most part, but we're also using a lot of spare hardware that we had from MSL or Curiosity for Mars 2020. You know where to look on lab. You can walk around and see a lot of the EDL hardware and the cruise stage hardware that's pretty developed.
And this is really important for understanding why this mission makes sense. We have to do relatively little in the way of new development This saves money, it saves risk, it saves time. It's the right way to pursue this kind of mission.
Mars 2020 also features new technologies for entry, descent, and landing, allowing it to target a smaller landing zone and even divert from known risks in the area.
It means that we can both go to places that are maybe more interesting to the scientists because we're able to handle places with more hazards, as well as land closer to the things that they're interested in off the bat. So we get to the science that they care about and more quickly.
The three key sites that we are considering right now share one thing in common. They are all environments that might have been habitable in the very distant past. One of them is the floor of an ancient lake. Another is a hot spring. The third one is a site where hot water interacted with rocks in the shallow subsurface. We have instruments on board which are expressly designed to seek evidence of ancient life, called biosignatures, and we have the capability to prepare samples, drill them out of a rock, seal them in a tube, so that future mission could go and bring them up. We call that cache.
So it is a first of a new type of mission, which is to bring samples back to the best labs we have, which are here on Earth. Mars 2020 is a pivotal mission in our search for life that could finally answer the age-old question, are we alone?
Okay, so the purpose of the mission to Mars. They talked about a lot of things. The first answer would be all of these, and then we'll say what they actually are. Caching to bring samples back to Earth. Again, this is where we would grab the samples or prepare those samples, and then a future mission would bring them back to Earth. Search for ancient microlife and studying biosignatures. Any thoughts on what might be the answer on that one? Dun, 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 dun. Seen some A's. We're going to go with that. It's all of these. It's going to do all of those. So they said, again, the hardware is similar to the 2012 rover, but they've added a whole lot of new things as well on it. So they were able to reuse the design, but added some new features as well. So we'll go with A. Yep, we got it. Okay, another question here, true, false. The rover has been designed to mimic the previous Curiosity rover. They did mention that, yeah. So true or false on that one? Actually is true. So that, again, they're reusing that design, but adding some new features. So it's mimicking the overall shape and kind of design is very similar, just with some new added features. True on that one. I think we're almost done. Well, this is just a quick one. This is about one of the instruments. So there's, hopefully you can still see that screen. I'll make that just a bit bigger. These are some of the instruments on board. So I'll kind of point you to the right answer. The MOXIE one is they're actually trying to figure out, can they produce oxygen from the carbon dioxide on Mars? So this is similar to what plants do. You know, trees take in carbon dioxide and produce oxygen, right? We need a way, if we want to send astronauts there, to have oxygen. So this is a way to kind of test that out. Do we understand the process enough to do that on our own? Can we manufacture oxygen from all the CO2 in the Mars atmosphere? So I'll give you a hint on that one. This one is MOXIE. So we'll go with C on that one. Super. We finished it. Oh yeah, so this was made for something else. So they had this hashtag Go Perseverance, but we did it. You passed the test. All right. Close this one down. Back to the screen. Okay, so again, if you wanted to look over those videos or those questions again, this link will be in the PDF that you'll get so that you'll have access to that. Okay, so the main event today is they talked about this entry, descent, and landing, or EDL. These are the things in this timeline. I don't know if there's a chance maybe you could have this video up or have this screen up when you watch the video. Just again, this all ends at 3:55 p.m. But these are the things, and they hit these just briefly. We have another video that goes in this, so I won't spend too much time on this. But again, things separated. So from this point on, this E plus 0 minutes, from this point down is 7 minutes. So again, it's going super, super fast. It heats up. It decelerates as it starts to hit the atmosphere. Shoots out a parachute. This parachute comes out actually when the vehicle is still supersonic, faster than the speed of sound. Heat shield comes off. Eventually, the parachute and upper shell comes off. And then this sky crane maneuver is where these rocket engines light. It lowers down the rover from inside. Rover safely touches down on the surface. These lines get cut and this flies away. So it's just kind of crazy to think all this is just going to happen on its own. but that's exactly what's going to happen, and all ending at 3:55 p.m. today. So the thing is, we're going to hear about it at 3:55, but it actually already would have happened 11 minutes earlier because the speed of light is fast, but it's not infinite. So something happens on Mars, it takes us 11 minutes, at least at the current distance between Earth and Mars, for us to hear about it or to get those signals back. So at 3:55, we'll know, but at 3:44 our time, it will have already happened, either successfully or unsuccessfully. So this is a little more detail on that entry, descent, and landing. Bring this over here.
Nothing can be taken for granted when you get to Mars. There's a lot of things we just don't know.
Space always has a way of throwing us curveballs and surprising us.
I mean, until we get the data that says we're on the ground safely, I'm going to be worried that we're not going to make it.
Entry, descent, and landing is often referred to as the 7 minutes of terror because it takes about 7 minutes to get from the top of the atmosphere of Mars to the ground safely.
The spacecraft has to do all of this by itself.
There are many things that have to go right to get Perseverance onto the ground safely.
There's a lot counting on this. This is the first leg of our sample return relay. There's a lot of work on the line.
Starting about 10 minutes before atmosphere entry, we get rid of really the spacecraft part of the rover that's been supporting us.
We come screaming in to the Martian atmosphere at 12 to 13,000 miles per hour.
And the heat shield is what dissipates all that initial energy through friction.
The vehicle will continue actually flying itself through the atmosphere. It's sort of like a transforming vehicle that went from the spacecraft and now comes an aircraft actively guiding itself.
When we're going slow enough, we deploy a parachute.
Biggest supersonic parachute we've ever sent to another planet. It's critical for slowing down the vehicle.
Perseverance's entry, descent, and landing borrows heavily from that of Curiosity.
But fundamentally, Perseverance is a different rover. She's bigger, she has different instruments.
We've added a lot of smarts on the inside to make it more capable so that it can deal with the landing site that we've given.
The science team identified Jezero Crater as basically an ancient lake bed and one of the most promising places to look for evidence of ancient microbial life and to collect samples for future return to Earth. The problem is it's a much more hazardous place to land.
If you look at Jezero, all you see is danger. How do we go to a site that we never thought was safe enough to go to before? So the heat shield, which has protected us all the way through entry, is no longer necessary. We need to get that off so that we can actually see the ground. And we can see the ground in a couple different ways.
Perseverance will be the first mission to use terrain relative navigation. So while it's descending on the parachute, it will actually be taking images of the surface of Mars and determining where to go based on what it sees. This is finally like landing with your eyes open. Having this new technology really allows Perseverance to land in much more challenging terrain than Curiosity or any previous Mars mission could. Amongst the rocks and the craters and the cliffs, these things are hazardous to the rover, but these are the things that are interesting to the scientists.
Once Perseverance has figured out where she is, jettison the back shell and parachute and light up our rockets. Those rockets help us steer to a safe landing spot that's nearby.
That descent stage takes us all the way down to about 20 meters off the ground.
That's when we start the sky crane maneuver. Once the rover has hit the ground, the descent stage will cut loose from the rover and fly away to a safe distance. Surviving that 7 minutes is really just the beginning for Perseverance. Its job, right, being the first leg of sample return, to go look for those signs of past life on Mars. All that can't start until we get Perseverance safely to the ground. And then that's when the real mission begins.
So that's a good point just at the end there. So this is really obviously just the beginning of this mission. So they are just landing today, and it's kind of exciting because it's a bit treacherous. So there's a lot of things that have to go right. But it really is, it's kind of day zero on Mars. So from this point on, the science that they do, the reason they actually went there, all just starts today. And so there'll be lots of checkout maneuvers and things, make sure everything's working okay before they start driving and all that. You may have heard about a Mars helicopter as well. They will have that on board as well. So be doing some flights with that before too long. Okay, so back to this EDL, entry, descent, and landing. This is that timeline of the various things. So I just wanted to kind of mention this. This is 3:55 is when hopefully you'll see a bunch of engineers in California jumping up and down, giving each other probably elbow bumps, not hugs like they usually do, assuming they've heard that it all went well. The thing is, again, that actually happened 11 minutes before that. 11 minutes, 22 seconds is when it happened. So at 3:44, or 3:43, I guess, in a couple of seconds, it will have already happened. We won't know about it because, again, that signal has to travel 11 minutes to get to us. So these are the times on Earth when we'll actually know that these things happened. They might get some intermediate telemetry or some information from the spacecraft at these times. But 3:55 is, again, if you see people jumping up and down on NASA TV or on these on this coverage, you'll know it all was working. Okay, then Mars time. I wanted to mention this as well. Again, talk about this being day 0. So they talk about Martian days being called sols. And so it's interesting because a Martian day, you know, a day is how long it takes the Earth to spin once around, right? So on Earth, we're used to 24 hours being our day, right? On Mars, the day is 24 hours and 39 minutes and 35 point some seconds. So the first couple months, actually, the team members actually shift from living a 24-hour day. They then live a 24-hour, 39-minute day. So they basically start getting 40 minutes off every day compared to the time of the friends that don't work at JPL working on the rover. So they actually will kind of wake up and sleep when the rover does, because they want to be working with the rover during its day, during its Martian day, and sleep during the Martian night. So as soon as they have special watches that'll tell them what time it is on Mars and all that. So they'll actually kind of shift their living arrangements back to a 24-hour, 40-minute day. So it's kind of interesting, again, to kind of sync up with the rover. Eventually they'll come back to regular time, but that's just something they do kind of initially when they're checking out all the instruments and things. So the prime mission, or the initial thought, is a year. So that's 687 Earth days. So it takes that many Earth days for Mars to go around the sun once, or in sols, that's 669 sols. But again, assuming things go well, this mission length will probably be lengthened. You know, maybe remember some of the earlier Mars rovers that were designed for a few months, and they ended up lasting over 10 years. And the Mars 2012 rover is still going strong, and that's, you know, been 9 years. So these things are usually designed to last a long, long time. And hopefully we have the same with this one. Okay, so this is a fairly wordy chart, and it won't go through it all now, but I wanted to kind of impress upon you all the things that are trying to do within those first 30 days. Again, you'll have this chart to look at later. But within a couple days, we'll have images of how things look at the landing site. They'll start setting up antennas on the rover. These things will all open up from the rover. They can update the software remotely. So there's actually a number of satellites that are orbiting Mars now that have been for a number of years. And so typically we'll send information to those satellites, which will then relay it to the rover on the ground. And so they can obviously communicate with the rover this way, send it new flight software and update things, check everything out, do a short test, open up all the robotic arms, do some exercising, make sure everything works, all the joints are good. There's a pan under the rover that will allow them then to release that helicopter as well. They'll do some calibration work with some of these targets on the back of the rover. They have some known colors of things, and so they can check and make sure those instruments are seeing the colors they should be seeing. This sample tube handling arm, they mentioned that a little bit. So they're actually going to capture some samples and leave those on the surface for a future mission to use. So they'll start exercising all that as well. So then this is all that first 30 days or first 30 sols. So a lot of work there to get done, make sure everything worked, survive the trip. They will then drive over to a helicopter flight zone where they'll let the helicopter out, and then they'll do some test flying over there. So a lot of these flights will be, I think, just 10 or 15 feet off the ground, but they will give that a shot. So that'll be the first time they'll have a powered flight on another planet, you know. So we're kind of fond of the Wright brothers from Ohio, right? So this is a kind of a Wright brothers moment on Mars with that helicopter flying there. So there'll be coverage of that, I'm sure, going forward. I think that's probably it I had for slides here. So again, there's social media accounts to follow. The Mars rover program in general has its own Twitter account. The Perseverance rover will be saying things as well. Of course, they have a Facebook presence as well, so you can check out these links a little bit later. And so then this is the mission coverage page where actually we can watch the video. And so this mars.nasa.gov/Mars2020, maybe I'll copy that and put that in the the chat window for you guys to have. Let's see if we can do that. And I'll click on that and show you what's going on. Oops, right here. Okay, so I'll click on that and show you. And there'll be probably someone already yapping on there. Let me load that up. I'm sure they are. I think they were talking starting at 2:15 today. So this is that site. Their countdown. We're 24 minutes away from knowing if this all worked or not. Isn't that crazy? We're getting really close. So then if you click on this watch online, this is where you can go, depending on what kind of computer you're on. If you're on a tablet or whatever, this then will take you to a page that will itself then have a link to a live YouTube link, I think here. Yeah. So you can click on this, and that'll get to this is your checklist if you wanted to. I'm not sure how much they'll be calling out these different things, these different steps on this list. But again, 3:55 p.m. is when this touchdown will be happening, and so hopefully they'll be calling out all these. Or they might have estimated times of when these should be happening, and they'll probably be notified of a few of them from some just tones they get from the rover, from the spacecraft. So we see if this is working, but.
We will lose the ability to see ones and zeros, but the good thing is once.
Yeah, so he was already talking. So that's the deal. So that's the material I had for today to present. If you have any questions, go ahead and you can type in the chat, or I don't know if you want to unmute folks or how you want to handle from now on. But basically, I wanted to kind of talk this long and then let people load up that site to be able to watch the video from NASA.
Yeah, I think if you have questions, I don't believe you can unmute yourself because of how I did the thing, but maybe I'm wrong. If you do have a question, you can let me know, put your hand up if you are trying to ask a question, or type in the chat and I can unmute you. Like a longer question and you don't want to ask or type it all out, I mean.
All good, everybody ready to watch? Okay. Well, thanks for stopping by. Hopefully I didn't talk too fast. And again, you'll have these slides if you want to review some of this stuff again later. But that link that I put in the chat there, the mars.nasa.gov, Mars 2020, will get you pretty close there, and click on that watch online, and then I'll get you to that video, and then they'll be chattering until 3:55, and then we'll just 23 minutes or so away from here, and they'll be letting us know if it all worked or not. Again, there won't be a whole lot they can show us. They might have just a couple pictures, maybe some basic stuff to start, but they'll basically, the mission starts today and continues on for hopefully several years. So we'll keep our fingers crossed and hope it all worked to plan. So thanks, everybody.
Yeah, I did unmute, or I did allow for you guys to unmute yourself if you do have a question. But again, if you could keep yourselves muted most of the times, that would be great. Have a question, feel free to ask Eric. You'll still be around, right, Eric?
Yeah, I'll sit. We can leave the meeting open if you want, and everyone can have the video going. If you want the coverage from NASA, yeah.
Yeah, I think I'll leave it open.
Okay, cool.
And then if anyone has questions, they can ask. But it might just be a little bit more of a silent watching party too. So.
Yeah.
So Hafiz just asked. It's sort of the end, Hafiz. It's the end with Eric giving all the information about it, and now you can just watch the link that's right above in the chat, and that's where you're going to be able to watch the actual landing and hear the NASA people talking. So don't forget to click on that link so that you can see the actual landing.
So here's the link, the direct link right to the coverage if you wanted to.
Yeah.
There too.
Yeah, I guess you could.
One-stop shopping. Yeah, there you go.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he just put a new link in there, so you can click on that and you'll be able to watch it. Yeah, I don't know, because I feel like if we put it on yours, Eric, it will still kind of be a little choppy, maybe.
Sure. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. So I think the best bet for everyone would to be click the link and see it on that. It just will be better audio-wise. But again, we'll keep Eric up here. We can keep everyone muted. And if you do have a question, you can unmute yourself to ask Eric. Right, Eric? Is that good?
No problem at all. Yeah, sure.
All right, cool.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, thank you all for coming. I hope you guys learned a lot. I just did. It was crazy.
Fun stuff, yeah. So I'll go on mute then and just
Yeah,
Yeah,
same.
sure.
I'm
Okay,
gonna go
cool.
muted, but again, I will be around to help and look at the chat as well.
Okay.